Ukraine just passed a law that forces all males aged 18 to 65 who are found guilty of rape or being a pedophile will get a forced chemical castration. How do you feel about such laws? I feel like that's a law which can be abused, considering Ukraine's level of corruption. So now they can arrest someone under false allegations, and they're immediately dealt irreversible punishment. Doesn't matter if you're innocent or not, you're fucked for life. I could imagine that. And I hope it doesn't. Which it unfortunately probably will be. If the accused is a proven serial rapist, and many studies have found that rapists do tend to act again, so maybe that's where they're coming from with this. I don't have an issue with it. But otherwise I don't think there's a point. I also don't think that a chemical castration will stop anyone from rape or sexual assault. Maybe that combined with therapy to get down to why they did what they did and how to help them not do it again, if they can change. As a victim of sexual assault, part of my brain loves the idea. However, remove emotion from the equation and I don't. There are a lot of flaws with this. Men aren't the only ones who rape or are pedophiles. The age range makes no sense at all. Rape isn't restricted by age. Plus, chemical castration isn't what people think. It is generally reversible and only acts to reduce libido to lower interest in sex. It's supposed to make offenders less likely to offend again because it would lower sex drive. It is not a method of sterilization which people assume it to be. The big issue here is that more often than not, rape isn't rooted in a desire to have sex. It isn't an issue of a high sex drive. Tons of people have high sex drives and yet manage to never commit rape. Rape is less about the actual act of having sex and more about control over the victim, taking what you want regardless of the consent, feeling powerful. Rape is less about the actual act of having sex and more about control over the victim, taking what you want regardless of the consent, feeling powerful. If all rape came down to was "gee, I want some sex right now," then the world would have an even higher rate of assaults than there already is. Yes, 100% this. Rape is typically about power. The courts could literally castrate someone, and the person could still sexually assault someone. This doesn't really do anything to bring justice to victims. It's just more violence the state gets to wield to look like they're addressing an issue. Cruel and unusual, not justice. Plus, rape doesn't require a functioning penis, nor is it an effective deterrent when it has been used. There's a reason we made a Bill of Rights. And unjust things always start with the most looked down on society, often the hardest people to defend, but they need it as well. There's so much wrong with this in of itself. Why the age limit? Why only males? And why not actual child abusers instead of pedophiles? Not to mention that you don't necessarily need functioning genitalia to sexually assault and mistreat people anyway. As people before me have pointed out, the possibility of false accusations would be so incredibly high. I mean, hell, in other countries, it already is. Having such a permanent punishment done to potentially innocent people is a terrifying thought. It's sad that with most cases relating to cancel culture, the ideology of innocent until proven guilty is reversed. If people are proven guilty with hard, solid, indisputable evidence, they should deserve a more befitting punishment. Most studies show that these types of people aren't likely to change, so why keep them in society? Subject them to a life's worth of solitary confinement. It may be unethical, but they chose the decision to hurt someone else more vulnerable and possibly ruin their life. They made that choice by their own volition, so they should be expected to deal with the same consequences. The law is absolutely awful and a violation of human rights. First of all, it's incredibly stupid to punish pedophiles that haven't done anything. They need help, but they would never go ahead and get help if they are getting castrated for it. Second of all, castration for non-medical reasons is very dangerous, and as much as I despise rapists, they are still humans and have human rights. No self-respecting doctor would perform that castration. So about 15 years ago, a guy I knew was accused of raping and knocking up a girl in this small town we lived in. I remember when the news came out that he'd been arrested and jailed, we all laughed a bit because the dude really was a terrible person. In the end he pleaded guilty, sentenced to a few years in jail, and is a registered sex offender. Not to mention, girl was 16 and he was 18 and they charged him as an adult. So not just a sex offender, but rape of a minor. The catch is that when the baby was born it was very, very Hispanic. The rapist is about as white as Barry Manilow. After the baby was born she finally broke down and confessed that she got pregnant by her boyfriend, but was afraid of her family's reaction, so she claimed she had been raped by the guy literally no one liked. The guy pleaded guilty in exchange for a reduced sentence. The judge, and all the lawyers involved convinced him that he was doomed and going away for a really long time in a prison that doesn't deal with child predators very well. Plead guilty, get a few years in a local facility with a small, docile inmate population. They still made him serve his time. And I just checked the watchdog registry and he's still a registered sex offender, child molester. Now imagine they also cut his nuts off.